All right, here I am with example 5, where we're asked to write an equation to the following graph. That doesn't make sense. Better, it says for the following graph, I think makes more sense. All right, so the first thing I notice is the center, quote unquote, of this graph has been moved down to -2. I can also see that with this sort of like center line, the principal axis they've drawn in for me. So that looks to me like it's been moved down 2. And then normally we go over a quarter of a period and up 1, but that's not what's happening here. It looks like we go over a quarter of a period and up a half. And obviously we haven't given you any more specific values, so you just have to estimate on what you see. But that tells me that my vertical stretch is actually a shrink stretch, and I'm going to call that a half. My period is going between, so my period is between 3 pi over 4 and then minus negative 3 pi over 4. So I get a period that's 6 pi over 4 or 3 pi over 2. And I know that a normal period is going to be equal to pi. And so I know that pi divided by b is my new period. So that tells me that pi over b is 3 pi over 2, which implies that the b value is 2/3. All right, so the last thing I want to think about is whether it's been translated left or right, but I can see that it hasn't been translated left or right because I have my center still on the y-axis. So I'm going to say this equation. Oh, I also want to look and see that it's pointing with a positive a value, and it is because I'm going up through the y-axis. So I'm going to call this equation a half tan 2 over 3 x minus 2 for the down 2. So let's pop over to Desmos and see what that looks like. I would say let's do that together, but I'm only sharing this window with my Screencastify. So you pop over to Desmos, set up your window to go from -9 pi over 4 to +9 pi over 4, and see if your picture matches this picture.